Dan Mandis here, welcoming on into the radio program, Dr. Manny, Sethi. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining us here on Nashville's Morning News. So, a lot of conversation and consternation going on social media, television, radio as well, because there's some people that are saying now that we could end up with more mask mandates. And so there's a couple of different COVID variants that are on the rise yet again. Now, it seems like every time there is a COVID variant, it turns out the predictions are that it's really going to be terrible. It's doomsday and all that kind of stuff because, fear sells. And then it just sort of fades into the distance. And so I wanted to get you on and get your opinion on two. You've got one out of Canada. It's called BA 2.86. And there's another one called Eris, and there's that EG5 is what they call it. So let's talk about these, and you tell me how bad these are. Could we end up with mask mandates? And God help us, I can't imagine that they'd do lockdowns again. But let's talk about this. First, let's talk about the one in Canada, BA 286.
Well, thanks for having me, brother. So the short thing here is for your listeners, as we've always talked about, just don't get freaked out by the media. So BA 286, it's a newer variant. It's from the Omicron family. There's a part of the virus called the spike chain, and that's the area of proteins that allows you to kind of get around the immune system and get around all these vaccines, and that part has mutated in this virus. So what that means is it's able to get to people easier, so you can give it to someone easier, and when you get it, it's hard for your immune system to beat it. Meaning, if you've had COVID before, or even if you've been vaccinated, it's harder for your body to kind of target it because it's pretty sly. It can hide. So it tends to make people a little sicker. What I mean by that is just maybe a deep cough, fever, just like flu-like symptoms, nothing crazy. So that's that one. It's right now, the number of cases in the United States of this variant is small, but it's climbing quickly because it's able to evade transmission, like I said. And then the other one, which is the more common one currently, Eris, that again is one that's mutated from the Omicron family. It's easier to give to one another, so it's highly transmissible, but it's not as able to evade the immune system. So it's easier to find. It doesn't make people as sick, so you get some kind of upper respiratory problems. Like what I mean is like slight cough, little fever. You're kind of like, am I sick? Am I not sick? I don't know. The bottom line is look, we are going to have to live with COVID for many, many years to come. And, if you get the flu, people don't go this crazy, or if you get RSV, I just think this is the media trying to scare people. But I do think left-leaning cities and states are going to try to bring back mask mandates, I would imagine, if this continues, which I strongly disagree with.
Well, so I guess there's a few things. Number one is you're right, and you and I have had these conversations for a long time now, where COVID, I don't know if it's accurate to say that it's never going away because I'm not a doctor, but, just like we have the flu every year, we're going to have, I'm assuming, a perpetual parade of different variants, at least through my lifetime. I'm 55. I can't imagine with the way this thing made its way through our population worldwide that it is going to go away anytime soon, because there's always going to be different variants. And even when we were talking about vaccinations, I mean, all of us said, well, most of us said, well, even if you get vaccinated, there's still going to be variants, and it'll tiptoe, as you said, or it'll dance around the vaccinations. That's part of what we face. And so anybody who's surprised by this shouldn't be, because we've all known the science and we've been following the science for a long time. I guess part of what confuses me, though, Dr. Manny, Sethi, is the mask mandates, because isn't there now an abundance of science that has shown that the mask mandates did not work and actually caused even more problems?
Yeah, I think, in our kids, man, it was devastating, these mask mandates. Young children, in terms of their speech acquisition, their ability to read facial cues, that has really been damaged. And in terms of transmission of the disease, I mean, we just showed that you're right. It wasn't very effective. And so I would just say, look, if you're older, if you're younger and immunocompromised, you got problems, look, do whatever you got to do. I mean, wear a mask. Maybe it's helpful, but I think for the vast majority of people, we just need to continue living our life.
If you get one of these two variants or any COVID variant and, you get it like the flu, you take medicine, you survive, you get better, that ups your ability to withstand COVID, right? That helps your immunity.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's precisely right. And that's the thing. I think, so many folks across the country, the majority of people have either had COVID or been exposed to COVID. And so we have some degree of immunity now, which it will be very, very helpful over time.
Do you think it's at some point we will have actual medicines, and maybe we already do, and I don't know it, knock on wood, I've only had COVID, I think twice. But is there actual COVID medicine now, or is it just the typical over-the-counter type stuff that people are generally speaking taking?
Now, there are a couple of drugs. So Pfizer has a drug called Paxlovid, which really, if you have COVID and you have bad symptoms, it's a good drug. It's an antiretroviral that will diminish your symptoms. The problem with that drug, though, is that it's been shown to have a high rate of rebound COVID, meaning like, you're for whatever reason, we don't understand it, you'll get COVID again, or you'll have COVID longer, you'll test positive longer. There's obviously these antibodies that you can get. Those have been less effective with Omicron and the Delta variant. And Merck has something similar to Paxlovid, but over time, I do think there'll be some over-the-counter things that will mitigate this, make it better. Again, brother, we're only 2 or 3 years into this, which I know seems like a lifetime because of what they did. But in terms of medical therapy and technology, that's actually not a lot of time to find new treatments and therapies.
Yeah, a couple of years. We've been dealing with the flu for, I don't know how long, but generations and generations. And so, again, COVID is it's not going to go away anytime soon. You don't know what it's going to do, obviously, just like you don't know what the flu is going to do. We generally speaking, we know that there's going to be a different strain of flu every single year. And I'm going to assume that these different variations of COVID are just going to keep coming. And it's just, unfortunately, something that, like it or not, we are going to have to deal with. Dr. Manny, Sethi joining us. Doctor, are we done? Is that pretty much all there is?
Yeah, and I would just say over time, you're right, Dan. You're going to see more and more variants, but they're going to be less and less kind of harsh. And then hopefully one day this thing just burns out. But we just people listening to this, just don't let the media freak you out. This will be fine.